For example, give one
meron silang takbuhan. Number one. Number two, para tumaas ang kanilang kita. Ngayon, 3,000 pesos a month na lang ang kinikita. Kulang-kulang pa. Panggasolina lang. So kawawa ang ating mangingisda. And so we have to fight for our exclusive economic zone. That is energy security dahil maraming oil dyan at gas reserves. That is food security dahil maraming isda dyan at aquamarine resources. Ipaglaban natin yung arbitral ruling. Dahil atin yan, atin ang West Philippine Sea.
Usapang ekonomiya pa rin po tayo, economic recovery. Okay.
Ruth,
Before
meron
we
gustong
go.
sabihin si Senate President?
Yes, yes. I think it's very important that the audience or our people know that we filed, and I personally filed in the Senate the creation of the establishing maritime zones. The maritime zones will define the internal waters, the archipelagic waters, the territorial waters, and the economic zones of the country. Wala tayo noon. Kung ang China mayroong 9 dash line, wala tayong maritime zones, hindi maliwanag. That is why I filed the bill to ika ngayon, linawin mabuti yan. At pag dyan, pinasok tayo nung kapitbahay natin, papasok yung MDT, yung Mutual Defense Treaty. Ang kalaban nila, si Canona.
Thank you very much for that statement.
Mr. David.
Yes, Mr. David, you would like to rebut and add.
Nais ko lamang magtanong kay Ginoong Kiko Pangilinan. Kasi paulit-ulit naman yung sinasabi niya na labanan natin. No? Panahon pa ni Aquino at nitong kay Duterte, wala naman tayong nagawa doon sa sinasabi natin ipaglaban natin . So sa papaano mong paraan gagawin yung pakikipaglaban sa China para irespeto yung ating karapatan doon sa ating mga katubigan dyan sa West Philippine Sea. We cannot just simply say, ipaglaban natin. At ang nangyayari pa, sa mga proposals nyo, ang nangyayari pa, pinapatronize nyo yung ating mahihirap. Hindi nyo naman sila ini-empower with all those things that you're presenting. Libreng ganito, ayudang ganyan. That is not empowerment. That is patronage.
Siguro, can I respond?
Senator Kiko, do you have a rebuttal?
Yes. Siguro hindi narinig ni Ginoong David yung kanina kong sinabi dahil sabi ko nga, we will resume the Coast Guard patrols in the area. We will resume the Navy patrols in the area. So yun ang gagawin para maprotektahan ang ating mga mangingisda at ma-assert natin ang ating soberenya ron. Number two, we will have to engage with ASEAN. Indonesia, Vietnam, they are also concerned about the aggression of China. We should align with ASEAN neighbors who together we can strengthen our position that this aggression is not right. And number two, the US, Australia, Japan are also concerned about this 9-dash line illegal claim, fake claim. And we have to also align and strengthen our alliances with them so that we have a broad alliance that will assert or will oppose this unacceptable 9-dash claim of China.
But we also have to take note, Senator Kiko, that China's Navy is far larger than the Philippines. And it is very minuscule compared to the
Vietnam,
power of China.
Far larger than Vietnam and Indonesia, but they have asserted their sovereignty over these waters. Indonesia even binomba nga, pinasabog yung Chinese vessel . Hindi naman ibig sabihin gera.
In response to the two
So
gentlemen.
we have to assert. I'm not saying atakihin natin sila. Pero pagka tayo na wino-water cannon, hindi naman tayo pwedeng nakanganga. We have to, our Navy and our Coast Guard must defend our sovereign waters. And it starts with being present in these areas by having these patrols.
Gusto ng ating mga kandidato na marinig din yung side nila sa issue na ito. We have Congressman Bello. Yes, sir.
Napakita na natin dito yung magiging foreign policy ng Lenny Kiko administration at saka nung Lacson Soto administration. Sinabi na ni Senate President na he is going to invite the United States, to oppose China. Papasok na lang daw dyan, no? MDT, Mutual Defense Treaty. Hindi humari yan. We have to have an independent foreign policy. And ito naman si Senator Pangilinan, we will join the Quad. Come on! This is dominated by the Australia,
I did not say,
US,
I did not say
etc.
we will join the Quad.
No, but you said that you are going to
interruption, please,
align
Senator.
with the Quad.
No, Senator,
No,
no,
that,
no interruptions, please.
that
We
is
will have to let Mr.
consistent
Bello
with the
finish.
Aquino administration's pro-US policy. You're just carrying that out again.
Say we would join the Quad. You look at the tapes. Please, let's stick to the facts.
Let's stick to the facts.
Professor, let's stick to the facts. You are a professor.
Let's stick
You
to
are
the
a
facts.
professor.
Yes.
Stick
All right,
to the facts.
we'll have to end it there for now. And Senate President, you would like to respond?
Because I was alluded to.
Yes.
Yes,
I
go
never
ahead.
said invite. I did not use the word invite. I wonder where he got it.
Mr. Bello, please,
No,
let us finish Senate President's statement.
you follow the agreement that we have. We have a treaty. We have an agreement. Once pinasok tayo ng foreign, kahit hindi China, kahit sinong foreign, may aggression sa atin. And if they do that in the maritime zones that I am saying na dapat ay ating markahan, papasok ang Mutual Defense Treaty. Automatic yun. And the Department of State of the United States has already said that. There's no one being invited here. Yun ang batas, yun ang agreement, yun ang treaty. Ano?
Saying, let's invite them in.
No, that's not inviting.
Have SP
It's not
finish.
inviting. O anong gusto
Old
natin?
foreign
Pasukin
policy.
tayo ng
Mr.
China.
Let's
Bello,
have new
please,
thinking.
let's follow the rules.
No. Anong gusto natin? Pasukin lang tayo ng China, hindi tayo papalag? Bubukaka tayo? Hindi pwede.
Mr. Bello. All right. We've heard both sides. We've heard their arguments. We have many topics to cover for this vice presidential debate, and we would like to inform all our candidates, please, no interruption. It was stated in the rules when we began this program. So we shall move on.
Sinabi na po natin kanina, sorry, no, na kailangang patayin natin yung mic pag meron pong pumapasok habang nagsasalita ang isang kandidato. Please respect the rules. Okay, we have... Yes, sir. Marami pa pong
We are
pagkakataon
also
na
trying to
makapagsalita
control
lahat.
because there's so many issues that we need to cover in this debate. All right,
Moving on.
moving on.
Moving on.
Ruth.
The next topic is all about economic recovery. Ito po ay isang topic rin na malapit sa ating publiko. It's a priority of any government in any part of the world. But before we talk about how we can move forward as a nation, pag-usapan muna natin yung realidad ngayon. Alam po namin, ramdam ng lahat yung linggo-linggo na pagtaas na presyo ng ating gasolina. And as vice presidential candidates, you're also here to represent the policies of your running mate. What would your administration do to help consumers cope with rising fuel prices? Alam naman natin na may domino effect yan kasi tataas yung transport costs and that will also affect yung prices of basic goods and commodities. Kaya apektado po ang budget ng bawat pamilya. So ang tanong natin una ay kay Mr. Rizalito David. Ano po ang gagawin ng inyong administrasyon para mapigilan po or matulungan ang mga consumers to deal with the rising oil prices?
Alam nyo, 2 beses na ako nanawagan sa palasyo. At I hope na narinig din ng ating mga senador at mga congressmen na magpatawag si Ginoong Pangulo, no? Rodrigo Duterte, ng special session of Congress para bigyan siya ng power to suspend the implementation of the excise taxes and probably bawasan yung value-added tax at the pump, no? That would reduce the price by at least mga 5 to 6 pesos already, no? Which is substantial para makarecover din yung ating mga ngalakal at ating mga drivers, no? Ang isang pinaka-importante dito, pinabayaan natin kasi na ibenta yung isang napakalaking asset natin noong panahon ni Ramos, yung Petron, na napakalaki ang kinikita. Ang sa akin, kung kami ang mamumuno, i-reacquire natin yung Petron para ito ang mag-barometer ng pricing ng ating fuel requirements dito sa bansa at makapag-refine tayo ng sarili nating fuel, no? Yan, importanteng bagay yan. Wala kasi tayong control dahil wala tayong sarili nating oil company. Kaya yun ang nais kong mangyari.
Doc Williong, nakikita po natin ngayon no, ang sitwasyon sa Eastern Europe. Russia invading Ukraine. At nakikita po natin na umaakyat ngayon ang presyo ng krudo. Mahigit ng o lampas ng $100 per barrel. Ano po ang ating solusyon? Because pag umaakyat po ang presyo ng gasolina, lahat po naaapektuhan.
Yes, tama yung sinabi mo, Rico, no? Talaga problema natin sa Russia and Ukraine, tataas ang presyo ng gasolina, kuryente. Ang plano namin ni Mayor Isko ay pag nanalo siya, ibababa natin yung tax by 50% sa petrolyo at 50% yung tax sa kuryente para at least mabawasan ng mga 5 to 6 pesos. Itutuloy natin yung mga ayuda sa ating kababayan kasi nahirapan sila. Tulad ng ginawa ni Mayor Isko sa Maynila. Ngayon, February, March, meron niya siyang ayuda ng 700,000 food boxes para lang maibsan. Problema talaga sa kuryente, isa pa, yung malampayan natural gas natin, mauubos na by 2027. Diba? So magre-rely na lang tayo sa iba, sa coal at renewable energy. Itataas natin yung renewable energy Pero yung pinag-aawayan natin kanina dito sa West Philippine Sea sa ating kababayan, ano ba pinag-aawayan? Yung West Philippine Sea po kasi may 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. May 11 billion barrels of oil na nakatago doon. Tapos 77% ng mga isda natin nandun. Kaya kung pwede siguro muna hindi maggera, kausapin natin maigi yung China, sabihin natin atin to. Kung merong 60-40 deal, tignan natin. Pero siyempre, kaibigan pa rin natin yung Amerika kasi ang Amerika magbibigay ng armas sa atin. So kung pwede makuha itong mga yaman na to para bumaba na yung presyo sa gas at kuryente. Salamat po.
Now let's go to Senator Tito Soto.
We have a silver bullet to these problems, encompassing fuel, poverty, BRAVE. Matagal na namin programang tinutulak ni Senator Lacson ito. At we have ibinabagay na namin sa panahon. It stands for Budget Reform Advocacy for Village Empowerment. Ang kailangan kasi, nakahanda tayo. Whatever mangyari sa oil sa ibang bansa, iba kung nakahanda tayo sa baba. Dapat ang budget reform natin, manggaling sa bottom-up budgeting. Hindi kasulad na nangyayari ngayon na ceiling, bibigyan ng ceiling yung mga departamento, magsasubmit ng kung ano-ano, hindi alam kung ano nangyayari sa baba. Merong disconnect. Samantalang, kung ang magagawin natin ay yung budget reform na bottom-up, inaalam mo sa barangay, ano mga pangangailangan nyo, akyat sa Municipal Development Council, akyat sa Regional District Development Council, akyat sa national level. Pagdating ng National Expenditure Program, maliwanag yung mga pangangailangan sa baba. Pasama na din niya yung subsidy sa public transport. Kung tataas ang fuel sa ibang bansa, magkakaroon tayo ng problema sa oil, meron tayong subsidy para sa mga public transport natin.
You're watching a CNN Philippines special
Ruth,
presentation.
Meron pong gustong sabihin na si Mr. Manny Lopez.
Yes, thank you very much. Napansin ko po, namimigay tayo ng mga billion-billion dito in this program, no? But the truth of the matter, the reality that we will be facing is one that will require belt tightening. Sapagkat ang pandemya po, the repercussions of this pandemic, nahirapan ang global economy, ang ating local economy, maraming out of jobs, maraming mga iba't ibang mga micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises na nalulugi. So we came up with a three-pronged socio-economic development and political reform agenda. And this will require a new omnibus investment code, a streamlined bankruptcy law, and provision for low-interest loans para po makabangon ang ating mga MSMEs, ang ating agrikultura, ang ating mga professionals, at ang mga consumers. Sapagkat pag nakabangon po yan, babangon din ang ating national economy.
May gusto po atang sabihin si Congressman Bello. You have 1 minute, sir.
Yes, I think it would be very important with respect to yung sinabi ni Mr. David that we not only have Petron back, but we repeal the oil deregulation law para naman may control tayo sa mga presyo. No? Secondly, kailangan na ng price controls. And when there's an emergency, there has to be price controls. And then back to this situation, the Senate, passed this, itong lowering the income tax of the corporations in the midst of a pandemic, from 30 to 20 for local and from 30 to 25 for foreign corporations. And Senator Pangilinan was part of that. Senator Soto was part of that. It was pushed by the Duterte administration. So what the hell? You're saying you're for MSMEs and then you're bringing down the taxes of the big ones.
Marami pa tayong pag-uusapan mamaya. Posible pa tayong pumunta sa topic
Yes,
ng
Mr.
ekonomiya.
Lopez would like to
More?
add.
Okay.
Briefly.
As an economist and a management professional, I think we will have to strike a balance. When the budgeting and the priorities of the national government were undertaken, this was a pre-pandemic scenario. So accordingly, ang mga projections po, mga economic projections, ay nakasaad sa ganung senaryo. Ngayon, under the pandemic, with all the repercussions, negative repercussions, I would also agree with Professor Bello na kailangan magkaroon ng corresponding adjustments. And I think the Senate can handle this. Our two very distinguished co-BP candidates.
Okay, mamaya mas marami pa tayong...
Just very quickly,
Okay,
sinagot ko na yung
go ahead.
point ni Ginoong Bello na we have to strike a balance, and that's why we put we are putting a 100 billion assistance fund for small and medium enterprises, as we also allow for investments from abroad, for example, to come in. So it's a balance that we answered the question already earlier.
Mamaya marami pa tayong pagkakataon na marinig ang ating mga kandidato. You're watching a CNN Philippines special presentation. When we return, the war on drugs and the International Criminal Court. This is the Filipino Votes Vice Presidential Debate 2022. Stay with us.
We'll be right back.
should also be part of all other international organizations which help promote international harmony, cooperation, and amity that is provided for in our Constitution. So that's my short answer to this question.
And Doc Willie Ong, what is your point of view on this issue? Rejoin or stay out of the international court?
Salamat, Rico. Siyempre, yes tayo. Sasali tayo ulit sa ICC. Pero ang problema talaga natin itong war on drugs, di ba? I think kahit ito sa mga international organizations, yung criminal justice approach, minsan hindi yun ang pinakamaganda pag-solve ng war on drugs. Kailangan natin yung public health approach tulad na sinabi ni Senator Tito Soto. Ang addiction po kasi, may problema po sa prefrontal cortex. Dito sa harap natin, na-addict talaga yung tao. Kung di siya na-addict sa shabu, baka mag-Novain siya o mag-cup syrup siya. So, sakit po siya. So, 98% are mga users, 2% lang ang pushers. So, kailangan focus natin science-based, kailangan bawasan ng stigma sa mga gumagamit. Paparamihin natin yung mga libreng gamot. May gamot na kasi pang-solve o pang-cure sa mga nagiging drug addict. Hindi pwede yung ikukulong, tapos pagbalik, magiging addict sila ulit. At paparamihin yung psychologists, psychiatrists, at ililibre yung mga gamot dito. Sa Maynila, kay Mayor Isko, talagang 97% ay nahuhuli at hindi sila napapatay.
Napakinggan po natin yung mga response ng ating mga candidates that they will rejoin. What about cooperation with the ICC? And to what extent will you cooperate with the International Criminal Court? This question is for you, Walden Bello.
Well, the short answer is full cooperation, and we will make sure that there's a coordination between our justice system and the ICC, because 27,000 extrajudicial executions directed from Malacanang, President Duterte cannot escape this responsibility. And he should be prosecuted, and I believe he will be prosecuted and brought to a cell in The Hague. And we will support it. Calyode and I will in fact support this. But I would just like to say something. Yung rewriting of history. Si Senator Soto, he's rewriting history. Noong kasagsagan ng war on drugs, did he say anything critical of the president? Did he protect Senator Laila de Lima, who was a member of the Senate? No? I mean, he was just supportive during that time when the president was destroying the integrity of the Senate. No? So, Senator Soto, please don't rewrite history. You were an ally of the president until just very recently. Okay? So, let's be frank with our kababayan naman. Huwag tayo magsisinungaling dito. Kaya mahirap ho yan. Hindi ho ba anti-terror law itinulak nyo? Oh boy, come on.
Senate President.
I think former Congressman Bello has got his figures all wrong. Una, and then later I want to ask, what do you mean by ally? If because dahil kami magkaibigan, ally na ako. I have preserved the independence of the Senate always. And you can ask the members of the minority and the majority. Ngayon, why do I say he's got it all wrong? Kaya ako open na ang ICC mag-imbestiga rito. From the 2016 up to the present, October 2021, there were 258,000 drug operations. This is on the issue of illegal drugs, of drug operations. There were 378,000 arrests. And there were only 6,021 related to these drug operations that died. So kung may EJK at sinasabi nila, binibintang nila kay President Duterte, dapat 378,000 ang patay. Hindi totoo yun, 21,000. Kung ano pinapadala nilang figures sa ICC,
Senate
hindi
President,
totoo yun.
your time is up.
You have the records speak for itself.
Senator Kiko, the question now is to you. will you cooperate with the ICC, just apart from rejoining?
Yes, of course. In fact, we were one of those petitioners who questioned the withdrawal by the president of our membership in the ICC. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court did not share our view that the withdrawal should have been concurred by the Senate. So we will cooperate with the ICC. Na yung yes. But again, a second petition was raised by the Senate President. Pero yung petition namin na kine-question yung pag-withdraw sa ICC ay hindi tinanggap ng Supreme Court. But yes, we will support first the rejoining, and we will cooperate.
All right, Mr. Bello would like to rebut, but first we will go to Mr. Manny Lopez.
I support the war on drugs because I see the implications of our nation becoming a narco state. While on the same premise, I also believe that human rights should be protected. So the president took this lose-lose proposition by the horn and to bring in foreign interference based on their values, based on their perceptions, to actually intervene in Philippine affairs is not a good proposition, not a good idea for the sake of our country and for our people. And so I think while there is a clamor to rejoin the ICC, it has to be timely. And we have to look at this we have to look at this biggest issue that is hounding the Duterte administration in a balanced manner.
Balikan po natin si Mr. Bello for your rebuttal, sir.
Yes, again, wag ho tayo mag-rewrite. Wag ho tayo mag-rewrite ng history, no? Kasi lahat naman, all the key legislative initiatives na itinulak ni President Duterte, who was the biggest backer? It was Mr. Soto. The Anti-Terror Act, the Public Services Act, the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, the Foreign Investment Amendment Act, the Rice Tariffication Act, you name it. He never dissented from any major legislative push by the president. Kaya hindi independent ang kandidatong ito. I mean, wag tayo mag-rewrite ng history. And by the way, Mr. Soto, you never defended your colleague, Senator De Lima, when she was hauled out of the Senate. I mean, you just begged President Duterte to fall on your knees, and you didn't even oppose it.
I did not.
Okay.
All right. Senate President, you were alluded to by Mr.
Well-
Bello. Out of respect, this will be the final answer
Yes.
Yes.
for this particular issue.
Why don't you ask Senator De Lima herself? Because I did not allow her to be arrested in the Senate. That's one thing. Now, all the bills and all the laws that former Congressman Bello mentioned are all for the benefit of the people. Anti-terror law, bakit? Gusto mo ba? Terrorist, kampi tayo sa terrorist. Hahayaan natin sila gano'n na lang. Hindi ba? Yung foreign investments, bakit? Ayaw natin makika-recover ang ekonomiya. Nakasadlak na lang tayo. Baksak na lang. We should allow that. And then, I don't think it's wrong if I'm a friend of the president. As long as the Senate is independent, ang lahat ng pinasa namin sa Senado, kahit na pandemic, I was never absent, never late, kahit na to the detriment of my health, wala akong pakialam because I was doing my job. I only relied on Psalm 91. That's it.
Okay. We move on to another topic. As we mentioned, yun na muna yung huli for this one. Yung susunod natin, a study finds that provinces where political dynasties thrive are generally poorer. Because of this, yung mga magkakapamilya po, hindi na nababantayan ng isa't isa, nawawalan ng checks and balances, nandiyan ang impunity, corruption, and even violence.
But this year, elections are still dominated by political dynasties. Candidates, we want to know where you stand on this. We'll find out after a short break. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation. The Filipino Votes Vice Presidential Debate 2022.
Sure ka ba talaga dito?
Ano ka ba? Mabait si Papa. Sige po.
Paano po kami si Fart?
This is a CNN Philippines special presentation, the Filipino Votes Vice Presidential Debate 2022.
Our topic this time, political dynasties.
The Constitution explicitly prohibits political dynasties, but 3 decades later, no law has been passed to enforce it. Critics say it's because lawmakers themselves come from political dynasties. Pending pa rin ang anti-political dynasty bills sa Senado at sa lower house. What can you do differently as Vice President? As we said, a study finds that provinces where political dynasties thrive are generally poorer. Let's begin with Carlos Serapio.
Salamat. Salamat. Ngayon lamang pumasok ang usapin o issue sa aming transition platform at program of action. Lahat ng pinag-uusapan kanina nakapasok sa lumang sistema. Kaya nahihirapan din kaming magtaas ng kamay at sumagot dito. Dahil ang banggaan sa ngayon ay sistema na luma at sistemang bago. Sa sistemang luma po, hindi mangyayari na malulutas at matutugunan ang layunin na tigilan ang political dynasty. Wala pong iniwan yan doon sa sinasabi ko na programa hindi pwedeng basahin ng isang sistema na incompatible to. Walang iniwan doon sa telepono na Nokia, hindi siya makakapagpatakbo ka ng Netflix dyan. Dahil ang power base ng operating system is an oligarchic and elitist dynastic power base. So there is incompatibility between the objective of ending political dynasties in the country and the operating system. So ang magagawa po namin ay yung aming sinusulong sa ngayon. Isinusulong namin ang paglalagay ng bagong sistema sa pagtatalaga ng puno bayanihang constitution sapagkat doon hindi kailangan ng enabling legislation. The constitution itself will provide that political dynasty should definitely be not tolerated.
Sunod naman po nating maririnig si Dr. Willie Ong.
Yes, oo. Bali, ako lang po tumatakbo sa pamilya ko. Wala kaming political dynasty. Pati si Mayor Isko, wala kayong mahanap na mga dumagoso na ibang tumakbo. Actually, syempre, ayaw natin ng political dynasty, di ba? Pero meron namang mga paraan. Masyado kasi tayong strict hindi naman matutuloy din to, hindi rin naman papasa. Pero pwede tayo gumawa ng mga variations. Baka pwede may gap muna, may isang term para at least hindi gamitin yung resources nung nahalal para tulungan yung anak niya, kamag-anak niya. Pwede rin naman na so kailangan may gap, tsaka may limit lang yung dami ng kamag-anak na po pwede. Siguro 2 o 3. Isang plano ni Mayor Isko na naisip namin, dahil meron tayong 17 region gusto niya yung pag-elect ng senators per region. Ito yung isang idea na magkakaroon ng 2 senator per region, so 34 lahat. So makakatulong to sa pag-develop ng mga regions natin. Merong tututok sa mga Muslim Mindanao at iba. At bababa din yung gastos ng mga senador sa pagtakbo. Isa po to ang iniisip natin para maging mas balanse yung Pilipinas, hindi puro Maynila lang po. Salamat.
Walden Delio, what are you going to do with the political dynasties?
Well, the Marcos dynasty and the Duterte dynasty, we're seeing how they represent really the greatest evil of the political system that we have. Which is why it is very important for our people, if you really want to oppose political dynasties, here is the 2 dynasties that they boast. The South and the North Raw will get together to eat up the Philippines. The task is up to our voters. Do not elect these dynastic cliques coming to power. Make sure that you tell them that you are not going to come to power just to eat up the Philippines between the 2 of you. So nasa sa voters niyan ngayon. Okay? And that is why we are appealing, don't vote for these dynasts. And I'm really terribly sorry that she is a coward. Just like Bongbong Marcos is a fucking coward.
Open naman po tayo just in case gustong magpadala ng response ni Mayor Sara Duterte.
Oh, I would love to debate her. Wow.
Moving on, still in politics, ito po para kay SP Soto. Surveys show former Senator Bongbong Marcos is leading by a wide margin. Our question is two-pronged. What if both of you win? What would a Marcos Soto administration look like? And how do you plan on working with the former senator?
I have not given it a thought. In my sphere, we are working on the presidency of Senator Lacson. So hindi ko naisip yun. Basta sa akin, kung sakasakaling kami ay pala rin, binigyan kami ng pagkakataon, I will use my experience and my competence to in facing and addressing issues of national concerns. After 30 years, palagay ko naman ay nakahanda ako dito. So ganun ang aking thinking. So wala akong iniisip na kung iba ang mananalo at this point.
And if Mayor Sara Duterte was here, we would also have asked her a similar question. If VP Robredo wins, what would a Robredo Duterte administration look like, and how does she plan to work with Lenny Robredo? And if Mayor Duterte would like to answer the question, of course, later on, she is welcome to do so on CNN Philippines.
At nandito naman yung running mate ni Vice President Lenny Robredo. So si Senator Kiko, we have the same question for you. What would a Marcos Pangilinan administration look like? And ano ang plano nyo para makatrabaho ang dating senador?
Well, kaya ang hiling natin sa ating mga botante ay suportahan yung Lenny Kiko tandem para hindi magulo. Para nagkakaisa ang presidente at vice presidente, yan ang pinakamainam para sa tapat na gobyerno. No? At iaangat natin nga ang lahat. So yun ang ating pakay. Ngayon, having said that, magtatrabaho tayo para sa mga magsasaka at mangingisda at food security, anuman ang maging resulta ng halalan kung tayo ipalari.
And Rizalito David would also like to have his statement because there's various combinations, no? What if it's a Rizalito David or a Bongbong Marcos or Lenny Robredo presidency? How are you planning to cooperate with them, Mr. David?
I think malinaw naman yung aking advocacy. No? Kung sino man ang uupong Pangulo, i-offer ko yung aking sarili para tumulong. Subalit kung ayaw naman niya, itutuloy ko pa rin yung advocacy ko outside of the government. Yun lang naman ang pwede nating gawin. Ano? Kapag nagsalita na ang taong bayan, kung si Bongbong Marcos ang mananalo, which is very sad, no? Wala na tayong magagawa. Babantayan gagawin ng Vice President para siya ay kumbaga labanan doon sa kanyang pang-aabuso.
Our next question goes to Carlos Serapio. The 2022 budget of the Office of the Vice President is over 700 million pesos, and that is 21% lower than last year. How do you plan to spend that amount as Vice President?
Well, we have designed, that means the political party has designed the Office of the Vice President, not just to support the President, and also at the same time to abide by the constitutional provision on the role of the Vice President. But we want the Office of the Vice President to be a table of idealism. It will be a table of philosophy, of advocacy, of aspirations, of vision. Most especially, it will be a table for the young people, for the young generation. Yung experience namin sa halos 50 taon ng pakikipaglaban para sa pagbabago ng ating sistema ay iyon ang maibabahagi natin sa ating mga kabataan. Sa ngayon kasi, ang nakikita nila, puro yung away sa kasalukuyang sistema. Labanan ng kulay at labanan lamang ng kung sino ang mas mabuti o sino ang mas masama. We are in a state of moral convolution. And unfortunately, our politics, our elections have not really been able to resolve this issue of moral convolution. And therefore, we have to introduce what we call as strategic, innovative exercises in the political process so that our young people will see something different than what is going on with our politics. So yung budget na yung kakasya na yun para namin maisagawa iyan.
Ngayon naman po, pakinggan natin si Mr. Manny Lopez. Paano niyo po gagastusin ang budget ng OVP?
Before I answer that, can I backtrack a bit on the political dynasty? I'd like to say that in fairness to our political spectrum, there are good dynasties, there are bad dynasties, and there are terrible dynasties. And to avoid the prospect of having terrible dynasties, do something where you have to initiate some initiatives, no, some reforms to prevent the occurrence of the incumbency of bad dynasties. And I think this is high time because, you know, the political landscape is now packed with dynasties. And if the country is being uplifted as a result of this leadership spectrum of having more dynasties, then so be it, if that's good for the country. But apparently, we are lagging behind as a country and as a people. And so therefore, we propose, under the Labour Party, a structural and political reform agenda that will empower the people once more. And this is through a people's initiative, a functional people's initiative will a prescribed ordinary citizens to amend laws or rescind laws.
This is a CNN Philippines special presentation at the University of Santo Tomas.
When we come back, we'll ask questions about taxes. You're watching the Filipino Votes Vice Presidential Debate 2022.
A CNN Philippines special presentation, the Filipino Votes Vice Presidential Debate 2022. We have seen 7 out of 9 candidates who are seeking the second highest office of the land, and they are answering your questions. I'm Rico Hizon.
And I'm Ruth Cabal, and we want to thank everyone who sent their questions to us through our
and I, my presidential candidate, we proposed that we would tax the top 250 to 500 billionaires in this country to 1 to 3% of their wealth, which means income, land, etc., etc. Now, this will yield about 1 trillion pesos, which would come to about 25% of the budget and more. Okay? Now, this is quite small. Okay? If you look at taxation rates in other countries, they go on the top levels, 20, 30, 35% in the US, something like around 39% in Germany. So our rich have no cause to complain. So this is going to be made as transfer payments to social services. Is this going to be possible? Of course, it is possible. One, it is very small part of their income. Okay. Two is that there are, in fact, many people among the rich in this country at this point, especially the younger rich, who's saying that we really need to be socially responsible. And then three is even Joey Salceda has said, that the rich now have to pay because they benefited from the pandemic. So this is a very sound thing.
Itutuloy natin ng issue dito sa buwis, and Senator Soto, you and your running mate, Senator Ping Lacson, have criticized the Finance Department's proposal for new taxes to manage government debt. Sabi po ninyo, ayusin ang pagkolekta ng buwis. How will you resolve the collection of taxes?
Digitalization. That is the answer, number one answer at the Bureau of Customs. We have given them the funds for it already, hindi kinukumpleto. Bakit? They want human intervention. Once we remove human intervention, we remove corruption, and we improve the collection of taxes. Ganun mismo, kahit sa BIR, kailangan improve natin collection of taxes. Hindi pa pwedeng dagdag ng tax. Nagbawas nga kami. We passed in the CREATE law that yung lahat ng below 250,000 a year ang kinikita, hindi dapat magbayad ng income tax. Pinasa din namin yun.
Okay, moving on to Mr. Manny Lopez, who is an economist. Your question, to increase taxes or not, at ano pong klase ng buwis?
I think the fiscal side of governance in this country has to improve. And there is a lot of room for improvement. First and foremost, the collection of taxes should be more efficient. Any avoidance of taxes should be penalized. And e-governance, as the good Senate President has mentioned, is a part of our legislative and executive agenda to improve efficiency in tax collection. On the same premise, on the other side of the coin, is to make best use of our taxes. And this means elimination of the leakages in the public finance sector, make our project implementation and program implementation more efficient, and there should be, better auditing procedures to make sure that every tax collected from the people should be spent wisely. So it's an overall picture, and the Public Finance Reform Management Act, which remains to be implemented up to this time, has not been implemented. And given the mandate to assume a more responsible position in this republic, we will make sure that our taxation system, our fiscal policy, will be improved dramatically. Thank you.
And since we are on the topic of tax collection, the Bureau of Internal Revenue, or BIR, has been identified by the Anti-Corruption Task Force as one of the graft-prone agencies. Once upon a time, there was even a proposal to abolish the Bureau. Former President and Vice President turned lawmaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo proposed in 2017 to replace the BIR with a National Revenue Authority. Ang sinabi niya, there is a need to address growing taxpayer dissatisfaction and the increasing perception of systemic corruption in the BIR. Our question is, as Vice President, how will you help end the systemic corruption in the BIR? Senator Pangilinan, you have 90 seconds.
Well, again, I will go back to, you have to punish swiftly the guilty. Hindi pa pwedeng hindi pinaparusahan ang mga nagkakasala. Ang nangyayari kasi, pag ikaw ay magnakaw nga ng mas marami, mas meron kang abogado, makakalusot ka dahil mabagal ang sistema ng katarungan. In the long run, you have to modernize your judiciary. You cannot have a modern judiciary with a third world budget. So we really have to increase support for our judiciary. Dagdagan pa ang benefits ng mga huwes, mga prosecutor, ng mga court staff para maging efficient. Increase the budget. If we can double it, why not? And in exchange, dapat mabilis ang paglilitis. Ngayon kasi 6 na taon ang average na paglilitis. Dapat yan mabawasan sa 3 o 2 taon na lamang. Dahil pag mas marami ang napaparusahan sa mabilis na paraan, talagang magkakaroon ng takot at respeto sa ating mga batas. So that's how you address corruption and that's how you address itong misfeasance or pang-aabuso sa pwesto. Hindi lang ng BIR at iba pang mga ahensya. Balikan ko rin lang, between imposing more taxes and having a more efficient system of collection, we would always should prioritize the latter dahil hindi nakokolekta. 700 billion pesos a year, sabi ng COA, ang nawawala sa corruption. Siyempre, ang pakiramdam ng taxpayer, ibinabayad ko sa inyo, ninanakaw lang ninyo. So kinakailangan talaga ng mabilis na paglilitis at parusa ng corruption issue.
So, Senator Pangilinan, paano natin pwedeng iksian ang paglilitis? Alam natin dito ang hustisya sa Pilipinas matagal sa mga korte.
Unang-una, fill up all the vacancies in our court system. There are about 25% of our courts walang judge, kaya mabagal. 2, add more courts para yung dami ng kaso ay hindi na overloaded ang court system natin. And of course, hire more judges, give them more support, and then ito nga, convene the JELAC, which is the Judiciary Executive Legislative Advisory Council. The Senate President, the Speaker of the House, the Chief Justice, and the President of the country sits in the JELAC. It has been convened twice in 2008. It should be convened when the next administration comes in, and we talk about budgetary support. We talk about magkano pa ang kailangan para talagang marami na ang ating courts para mabawasan o bumilis ang paglilitis. Pagka masyadong maraming kaso, isang judge, mabagal talaga. Pag mas marami ang korte, mas marami ang judges, mas mabilis ang desisyon. At magiging 2 years na lang yan.
Balikan natin yung original na tanong kay Dr. Willie Ong. Ano po ang gagawin nyo para labanan ang systemic corruption sa BIR?
Yes, talaga mahirap talaga magbayad ng tax dito sa atin. Minsan gusto mo na magbayad ng tunay, ayaw pa rin nila tanggapin, kailangan may lagay. Tama naman po sinabi ni Senator Tito Soto, kailangan i-computerize. Alisin yung usap ng tao sa tao, dyan makukuha yung corruption. Pwede natin i-simplify yung pagbayad ng tax. Isa pa, pwede natin i-broaden, paramihin yung nagbabayad ng tax. Ayon sa pag-aaral, parang 19% lang ang nagbabayad. Kaya nahihirapan yung 19%. Kung mas marami ang magbabayad, mas magaan ito. At i-encourage natin yung mga tao na magbayad. Kasi yung buwis na binabayad nyo, yan ang pang-sweldo sa teacher, di ba? Para proud tayo na magbayad. Pwede rin ayusin yung BIR. May concept na i-retire mo, tapos i-rehire mo yung iba. Pwede natin gawin to para malinis yung mga bad apples. Tuloy-tuloy din yung tulong natin sa MSME. Dagdag ko lang sa ibang bansa, meron silang philanthropy mindset. Meron silang Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, ang laking pera binibigay, long-term tulong sa Amerika. Sa atin, yung mayayaman natin, parang walang philanthropy mindset. Pero kulang tayo dyan. Kung yung mga mayayaman sa Pilipinas, gagawa ng long-term projects para ma-alleviate, matulungan tayong mga mahihirap. Salamat po.
Walden Bello, your response.
Well, I think that, let's be honest, no? Alam naman natin tax breaks na binibigay ng ating executive as well as the Senate and the House, no? Yung napakalaking tax break, yan yung create law. Binabaan yung corporate income tax from 30 to 20%. And for foreign businesses, from 30 to 25%. Ang laki, trilyon-trilyon na nawala sa atin yan. Ang tagal na ng agenda nila, even before pandemic. Pero ginamit tayo, they used the pandemic to get what they wanted. So, Senator Soto, Senator Pangilinan, pareho kayo nagboto sa CREATE Act that gave big tax breaks. So what are you saying, that you are not guilty of this?
I don't think it's time.
May I first?
Kiko?
Yes.
Kiko. And then we go to Mr. Manny Lopez.
Yes. Again, the issue of taxation is really a very sticky issue. No? Pero, nasa gitna tayo ng pandemya, hindi lang yung maliliit, pati yung mga malalaki na naapektuhan ng pandemya, yung negosyo, nagsasara. And the CREATE law precisely binabaan ito as a means to be able to provide support. Even the biggest companies like unprecedented. Kaya dapat unprecedented din ang kilos. I can understand yung concern ni Professor Bello regarding, yun na nga, itong mga tax perks and tax breaks. But because it was a different, never before experienced pandemic which really killed, bagsak talaga yung ekonomiya, we felt it best to provide assistance and support for companies.
Mr. Manny Lopez.
I have a question to my fraternity brad, Senator Kiko Pangilinan. A very simple question lang, Brad. Kaya nyo bang, since you mentioned about judicial independence and objectivity, kaya nyo bang litisin ang fellow senator nyo kung nagkaroon ng malaking issue or participation in graft and corruption? I happen to be a participant of the Million People March. At ipinagmarcha po namin yan. And maraming mga legislators ang nasangkot dyan, reportedly about 100. Mabuti na lang ang fraternity brad ko, hindi kasali doon. And si Senator Soto. But as a general question, kaya nyo bang litisin ang kapwa nyo senador kung nasangkot sa graft and corruption?
Well, that's...
Very short answer lang po.
Merong ethics committee sa ating Senado, but of course, paglilitis ang pinag-usapan, sa hudikatura yan. No? And in fact, ang nangyari nga, nitong nakaraan, 3 senador ang nakulong, no? Dahil dun sa paglilitis sa Napoles Fund. Pero nung nanalo na ang bagong administration, o bago pa man at nung nanalo, yun, nabaliktad yung sitwasyon.
Senate President Tito Soto. And then finally,
Yes.
before we go to the break, Mr. Serapio.
Yes, the answer is in the affirmative. There is a committee on ethics. If there is a case filed against a senator, we will investigate no matter what.
Briefly, Mr. Serapio.
Ito po sistemang ito has reached its point of incompetence. No matter kung anumang subsystem or sectoral reform ang gawin, hindi po maaayos yan. Ang pinakasagot talaga rito ay total system change po. Kinakailangan tumawid tayo from the old political system to a new one. This is in the nature ng unitary system will always have this kind of problem po. Ganun po ang mangyayari dyan.
And speaking of corruption, it will be one of the priority topics in tomorrow's presidential debate with our very own Pio Ontiveros and Pinky Webb. Tune in to CNN Philippines for the presidential debate at 5 p.m.
You're watching the Filipino Votes Vice Presidential Debate 2022 right here at the University of San. Again, thank you so much, USC. And thank you to Very Reverend Father Richard Ang, Director of USC. After the break, we'll shift our focus to our most precious resource, our children. How do we keep educating and protecting them? We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Stage are 7 out of the 9 vice presidential candidates. I'm Rico Hizon.
The UNICEF reported that since the pandemic was declared, we have seen an increase in children who have been left hungry, isolated, abused, and anxious. In addition, the pandemic has caused the most severe education disruption in the world. Dito po natin nakita yung isang problema sa bansa natin, yung gap, yung pagitan sa rich and poor students, lalo na pagdating sa internet access. Ang question natin, as Vice President, how can you make sure that the internet is more accessible and more affordable to the students? We want to hear from Dr. Willie Ong.
Yes, oo. Salamat sa question, Ruth. Oo. Talaga itong education talaga pinaka-problema natin kasama yung sa internet. Nakakalungkot talaga po yung mga datos sa mga bata natin. 33% malnourished or stunted, yung maliit ang height. Dati ang data, 50% may bulati sa tiyan. Paano mag-aaral kung anemic? 10,000 na bata namamatay bawat taon sa diarrhea. Maruming tubig, walang pang ospital. Oo. Kaya yung access sa internet, may plano kami ni Mayor Isko dyan sa fiber optic na gagawin niya. Pagdating sa school, ano problema natin? Bullying. Nako, sa Twitter natin ngayon, baka marami na nag-away. Philippines, 45% ang bullying. Sa ibang bansa, 8% lang. Kaya kita nyo naman internet natin. Isa pa, ito medyo hindi alam to ng kababayan natin. 31% lang ang growth mindset sa Pilipino. Isabihin, yung isip niya kaya niya maging mataas. Yung kaya mangarap, mababa tayo doon. Budget sa education, itataas natin. Sweldo ng teachers, grade 11 lang. Sa Maynila, ang dami tinayo ni Mayor Isko. Hospital, libreng tablet sa students, 20 gigs, 1,000 kada buwan binibigay. Mental health, linya ko po yan. Talagang tututukan ko yan kasi walang libre dito sa Pilipinas. Mahal pag nagkasakit sa depression, bipolar at iba pa.
Senate President Tito Soto, your views on more accessibility and affordability of the internet to students.
There is much to be desired in yung sa kilos ng Executive Department pagdating dito. Because nung tinatalakay namin yung budget para sa 2022, ang DICT nangangailangan ng mga 18 billion para sa improvement ng broadband, at para maisaayos nationwide at libre para sa ating mga kababayan. Ang napasa at ang pinayagan ng DBM, 800,000 18 billion yung kailangan 800,000 Tinanong ko nga Senator Unasan, I know this because Senator Lacson is the one handling the budget of the DICT. And then tinanong namin Senator Unasan, ano magagawa niyo ng 800,000? Wala daw. Yun ang isang problema. Now, as far as the educational freedom of the institutions are concerned, I am all for it. Meron lang akong gusto idagdag sa educational system natin. Dapat yung grade 5, grade 6, grade 7, meron drug abuse resistance education program. Pagtungtong nila ng 13 years old, alam na nila, masama yung droga, masisira ang buhay ko dyan, masisira ang pamilya ko, masisira kinabukasan ko. Ganun dapat yan We will be saving more than 50% of these young boys na sila ay malulung dyan. Kung nandun na kaagad yung drug abuse resistance education program natin.
May we hear from Senator Kiko Pangilinan?
Yung Robredo Pangilinan tandem ay mayroong plano para sa edukasyon. Immediately, pag-upo, yung 90 billion, isang gadget bawat estudyante. Isa yan, para talagang mabigyan ng sapat na suporta. Pangalawa, 300 pesos Wi-Fi load allowance kada isang buwan habang siya ay nag-aaral. So 90 billion yan immediately. Pero ang matinding problema din na dapat tugunan ay yung malnutrition ng ating mga anak. Paano ka mag-aaral ng maayos kung kumakalamang sikmura mo? Sabi nga, 95 young people are dying every day, our children, because of malnutrition. At yun ang ating kinakailangan gawin because we are food insecure. Yung stunting. Bakit stunting? Bakit maliliit? Bakit hindi lumalaki? Kulang ang nutrisyon, kulang ang timbang, kulang ang tangkad. Kinakailangan talaga tugunan yung food security. At paano natin gagawin yan? Dodoblehin ang budget ng agrikultura at titriplehin ang tiyak na yung dagdag na budget, madadagdagan ng ayuda at suporta sa ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda para tumaas ang kanilang ani at tumaas ang kanilang huli at pagka marami ng supply ng pagkain sa ating merkado, bababa ang presyo ng pagkain. Yun nga, hello pagkain, goodbye gutom.
And this is a question for Mr. Serapio. UNICEF has also found that the Philippines is the epicenter of the live stream sexual abuse trade. Research found a 265% spike in online sexual abuses between March and May 2020. As Vice President, we want to know what difference can you make to protect our children against online abuse? Mr. Serapio of 90 seconds.
Ang magagawa po natin dyan ay paggamit din po ulit ng teknolohiya para iyan ay ating ma-monitor ng mabuti. Ngayon po, gusto ko rin lamang pong sabihin Dahil ang pinag-uusapan lagi nga ay yung mga bilyon-bilyon na i-appropriate natin. Meron po bang na-allocate na pondo para sa ganitong mga programa? Kung wala po, kinakailangan pag-isipan kung saan kukunin yan doon sa mga ibinigay na pondo. Dahil ang bawat programa kailangan ng pondo. At ang lahat ng papasok na bagong manunungkulan sa susunod na administrasyon, ang kanilang gagamitin ay yung napondohan na sa General Appropriations Act o na budget na. Kaya po, doon sa tanong ulit, kakailanganin po talaga niyan ng teknolohiya para na sa ganon ma-monitor ng gusto itong nangyayari po ng mga yan. Meron po niyan na ganyan technology kaagad. Napakabilis pong makita niyan.
Criminals also took advantage of the growing number of Filipinos doing financial transactions online. The Credit Card Association of the Philippines said credit card fraud surged by 21% since the pandemic started in 2020. Tighter regulations on SIM card registration is now one step away from becoming a law. This question is for Rizalito David. How will you crack down on criminals, cyber criminals, and safeguard the people's personal information? Mr. David.
Well, the law is already in place. It just have to be implemented properly.
Why do you think it's not being implemented properly?
Perhaps there's yung kakulangan nga ng political will and yung desire natin to really help out, no? Yung ating kapwa para maiwasan yung mga ganyang bagay. Wala na akong maibang maisasagot doon dahil nandiyan na yung batas Nasa executive department na lang yan kung paano nila gagawin. I don't know if some of them are even involved in these things. That's why nakakalusot. No? Ang dali lang naman yan even yung cyber sex, no? Kontrolado natin yung mga ISPs. Bakit hindi yun minomonitor maigi ng ating gobyerno? Lahat naman dadaan sa ISPs, di ba? So bakit nangyayari pa rin ito, no? So posibleng merong kontsabahan dahil malaking pera ang involved diyan. Paminsan-minsan naguhulihan, pero on the whole pera yung pinag-uusapan, corruption pa rin yung pinupuntahan nitong question na ito, no?
And Manny Lopez, your views on cyber criminality and safeguarding people's personal information.
Yes, being a technology management professional for several decades, I think a real problem is competence, technical competence. Our implementers, our policymakers are not really keen or properly equipped on the matter of technologies and management. To cite you one very concrete example, right in DICT, I concur with the observations of the industry that we need better leadership, more technically equipped, and really experienced on the area of technology management. But unfortunately, this is not the case. And so cybercrime is proliferating in the same manner that financial technologies is increasing. As a matter of fact, the application of financial technologies has been embraced because of the circumstances that we were in during the time of pandemic. And so accordingly, there was a corresponding increase in cybercrime because of the lack of proper guidelines, the lack of proper monitoring, and it bottoms down on the lack of competence. Ayusin po natin yan because the future is in information technology.
Ayan, Rico, ang dami na nating narinig from our vice presidential candidates. And we have one final question after the break. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation, the Filipino Votes Vice Presidential Debate 2022 right here at the University of Santo Tomas. Stay with us.
toothpaste, magpanlinis mo na.
You are joining us live at the Quadricentennial Pavilion at the University of Santo Tomas. And we have one question left for our candidates, which will serve as our closing statement in this CNN Philippines Vice Presidential Debate. I'm Rico Hizon.
And I'm Ruth Cabal, and here is our final question, which will serve as your closing statement. The Constitution states that in case of death, permanent disability, or resignation of the President of the Philippines, the Vice Presidential Act as Chief Executive. Question, candidates, are you ready to assume the presidency should an emergency happen? And what would that leadership look like? We start the question with Senator Soto kasi kanina nung intro we started with Congressman Bello. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I have built consensus with 23 republics as president of the Senate for almost 4 years. We believe in our competence, experience, and I think we will be guided well, not only by the good Lord, but of course, the experience that they've built within 30 years. Meron po kaming qualities na pinag-uusapan ni Senator Lacson na dala-dala namin dito sa eleksyon na ito. 3 K, katapatan, kakayahan, katapangan. With this, I believe we will lead by example. Thank you.
Carlos Serapio, it's your turn.
By God's grace, I submit that I will be ready to assume the presidency should the occasion arise. I have thought a lot about presenting myself as a candidate in this coming election. I discerned, I reflected, I prayed. And I came to the conclusion that the 50 years of experience that I had been blessed to be part of the advocacy work of the just ordering of society will serve me in good stead. Should, again, I will be called to perform the duties of president. One can only do so with strength and courage if he depends on the source of all power. And that to me is the spirit of reason and the source of all reason, the source of all life, and that is God. So again, with the blessing of God, I think I am ready, willing, and able to be president of this country.
Senator Kiko Pangilinan.
Nung tinanggap ko yung hiling ng ating Vice President na si Lenny na maging Vice Presidential candidate niya, ako ay napaluha at nakita ng ating mga kababayan. Ang isang dahilan ay dahil nakita ko ang mabigat na tungkulin ng isang magiging Vice President at mabigat na mga problema ng ating bansa. Tinanggap ko yun dahil alam ko kung mahirap ang aming dadaanang kampanya, mas mahirap ang naging dinadaanan ng marami nating mga kabayan, namatayan, walang trabaho, ginugutom. Sa pagkakataong yun, titiyakin natin, uunahin natin yung mga nasa laylayan, yung mga mahihirap nating mga kababayan. Bata pa lang akong abogado, ako na ay nagbibigay ng libreng serbisyong legal sa ating mga kababayan. Biko nga, isang bilaong biko ang bayad sa akin ng mga manggagawa. Hanggang sa ngayon, mga magsasaka at mangingisda ang ating ipinaglalaban dahil sila ang kapos. Hindi makatarungan na kung sino pa ang nagpapakain sa atin, sila ang gutom. Hindi katanggap-tanggap na ang isang tatang Meg na nakilala ko, 87 years old, nagsasaka pa, baon pa sa utang. That is an injustice that is not acceptable, and that's the kind of leadership that they can rely on us and Vice President Lenny Robredo. Uunahin yung mga kapos. Maraming salamat.
Dr. Willie Ong, handa po ba kayong humalili bilang presidente, and what would that leadership look like?
Salamat, Ruth. Ako po ay isang doktor, internist, and cardiologist. Mahirap po maging cardiologist. Kami ang tumitingin sa code blue. Pag may namatay, pag may nagloko yung puso ng pasyente, we have to decide in 10 seconds, ito ba ang gamot? Ito, isang pagkakamali ko, pwede siyang mabuhay o mamatay. Yun stressful, pero sanay ako sa ganon. Dito sa gobyerno, marami kang advisor, pwede ka pa maghintay ng 1 linggo bago mag-decide. So tuloy-tuloy yung polisiya na plano ng aming program ni Mayor Isko. Meron kaming bilis kilos, 10-point program. Madalas for the past 4 months, ito po yung ginagawa namin. So tutuloy lang po natin to. Ako po ay isang doktor, 27 years. Libre ang serbisyo sa ating kababayan. Alam niyo, wala akong kaaway dito. Pwede naman tumakbo sa politika, walang kaaway. At sabihin ko na lang po, wala po akong campaign funds. Hindi ako tumatanggap sa kahit sinong negosyante. Kung tsatsamba tayo maging presidente, di makaka-decide ako ng napakaganda. Kung ano yung mga decision nyo sa West Philippine Sea, sa mining, yun ang magiging decision ko. Kasi walang humahawak sa akin. Kaya ko tumakbo, Facebook lang, at sa tulong at pagmamahal ninyo. Dito ako magsaserve kung saan nyo po kayo ilalagay. Maraming salamat po. Mahal na mahal ko po kayo. God bless po sa ating lahat.
Next, we have Mr. Manny Lopez.
Ako lang po ang kandidato para Vice Presidente na walang ka-official tandem na presidente. But I will fully commit to support the best, most qualified, and committed presidential candidate who will serve the interest and welfare of our people. I was tasked by the Labour Party leadership to seek the vice presidency in our collective effort to help rebuild the economy, address this unprecedented crisis, come up with proper solutions that will effect real change and reform, build a strong, just, and a progressive nation to help make lives better for our long-suffering people. Ako po bilang isang ekonomista at management professional, we came up with a 10-point socio-economic development and political reform agenda to help uplift the lives of our people. And bilang vice presidential candidate ng Labor Party, ako po ay handa na maglingkod sa ating sambayanan upang maitawid natin itong ating mga suliranin na haharapin sa mga darating na panahon. Salamat po.
Rizalito David, are you ready to assume the presidency should an emergency happen, and what would that leadership look like?
We are destined to greatness. Yan po ang pangarap ng Diyos para sa atin, subalit hindi nangyayari dahil may mga tao na pinipigilan na mangyari ang mga bagay na yan. Ako po ay pinanganak sa Tondo, doon lumaki, nag-aral sa pamantasan ng Pilipinas sa Los Baños. Nagtrabaho po ako na matagal sa Senado. Kasabayan ko pa nga po itong dalawa sa ating mga senador. Ang diferensya, hindi ako senador, sila senador, ako staff, pero mas marami kaming ginagawa. Yung preparasyon ko po ay narariyan. No? Hinihintay lang po ang pagkakataon. Kung yan po ay babagsak sa akin, tatanggapin ko po ng buong lugod at isasagawa ang mga bagay na dapat gawin para sa ating bayan. Katulad ng aking nasabi, we are destined to greatness. And we only need leaders to do this for us. Well, together with the people and share this vision. Kailangan natin ng malinaw na direksyon. At ano ba ang vision ng leader na yon? Malinaw na po sa akin yan, naisulat ko na po yan doon sa aking tinatawag na rebuild. At pinakita ko pa nga po kanina doon sa mga staff ng CNN kung ano itong sinulat ko na ito. Ako po'y nakahanda para sa ganyang pagkakataon. Marami pong salamat.
Walden Bello.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to CNN for this opportunity. Yes, I'll be ready to assume, but I really wanted to air some of my problems. You know, Sara Duterte is not here. They were watching us, you know, fighting one another, and she was not here to reveal her program because she has no program for the people. All she has is this mandatory military bill that would add 2 more years sa ating mga kababayan. 18-year-olds, they're trying to get out. No? I mean, we need Sara Duterte and Marcos to come and reveal themselves to the people. No? And that is why I don't like dumping on Senator Soto or Senator Pangilinan. No? I mean, really, you know, I think the main problem that we face is the Marcos-Duterte tandem. No? And I think that they just spat on the face of the Filipino people, telling them, you're not worth my giving you our programs because they have fucking no programs. Okay? So let me just end with that. You know, if I don't care what a number of people say, but I feel very strongly about the absence of these 2 idiots in this event. Thank you, CNN.
Candidates, we would like to thank you for your very generous time and for revealing to the Filipino people, sa buong sambayanan, ang inyong plataforma at programa kung kayo ang magiging vice-presidente ng Pilipinas. And after any debate, people often ask, who won? Who stood out? And who is the most qualified? So tell us what you think via the CNN Philippines digital platforms.
At marami na nga tayong reactions ngayon sa Twitter and Facebook. So to our audience, keep them coming. We want to hear from you. Alam mo, Rico, kasi yung mga ganitong debate, magandang pagkakataon talaga ito para makilala ang ating mga kandidato at marinig silang lahat. And again, we want to thank our candidates.
And gusto rin natin pasalamatan ang ating virtual audience who joined us for this Vice Presidential Debate 2022.
And of course, thank you very much to our host, the University of Santo Tomas.
Maraming salamat po.
Let's call in our candidates in alphabetical order. Former Akbayan Party List Representative Walden Bello. Please join us. Pro-life advocate Rizalito David.
Economist Manny S.D. Lopez.
Dr. Willie Ong, a cardiologist and social media personality.
Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan.
Lawyer Carlos Serapio.
And Senate President Tito Soto.
Maraming salamat po sa ating mga kandidato. Ako po si Ruth Cabal.
And I am Rico Hizon. Join us again tomorrow where 9 out of the 10 presidential candidates will be here, right here on the stage at the Quadricentennial Pavilion at the University of Santo Tomas to answer your questions. 5 to 7 p.m. Thank you for watching this CNN Philippines special presentation.
The Filipino Votes Vice Presidential Debate 2022. Thank you.
Each of us has a dream, an aspiration to something greater, and someone who inspires